Who's that black pimp to whom I can't help but simp?
Dynamite.
Damn right. Who's the man that's always fighting the white man?
Dynamite.
Can you dig it? They say that Cat BD is one bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about Black Dynamite.
Then we can dig it.
He's a cold stone man with a orphanage. He's black.
Dynamite! Dynamite!
Be honest, how many of y'all ever heard of this show or even remember it? What about the movie? Huh? Man, I wished we talked more about Black Dynamite half as much as we always talk about the Boondocks. Niggas really do be acting like there's only one major adult animated series focusing on black people and their issues. Damn shame. So like always, I'm gonna have to fully educate y'all on all things Black Dynamite. Or as much as I'm able to, because this series is far more complicated than it leads on. Time to split the scene, turkeys, and find out why Black Dynamite is a hidden gem.
We finally get to learn our history. This is so exciting.
Don't get caught up in the past, honeybee. Remember, it ain't where you come from. It's where you got your dick right now.
October 16th, 2009. Black Dynamite the movie hit the big screen with very lackluster results. Even though audiences and even critics loved it, the movie took nearly $3 million to make and barely made back 1/10 of that. Directed by Scott Sanders and co-written by Brian Mins, Michael J. White, also a credited writer, played Black Dynamite, a kung fu soul brother who tries to stop the man from poisoning the black community. This movie is a blaxploitation parody. It even looks like it came straight out of the 70s. And in case half of you didn't know, blaxploitation means to portray black actors as nothing more than hyperbolic, stereotyped characters such as thugs, prostitutes, pimps, and such. Think of Superfly, Foxy Brown, and Blackula, which is exactly what it sounds like. However, little care was done on how to actually portray black people without leaning into stereotypes. But these movies were a gateway for black actors, writers, directors, and audiences to see themselves. Yes, a lot of blaxploitation films were directed and produced by white people because 1970s Hollywood, but there were also black creatives that contributed to this genre of film. And if you liked the movie, you're gonna love the show. A lot of the humor and writing style in general from the film made its way into the animated series, with far more gruesome and outrageous fight scenes. Ugh, the wonders of animation. But before the series even came to Adult Swim, Black Dynamite had a few comics.
So this is pretty obscure, but it helps to talk about some lesser known history of the series. That being the Black Dynamite IDW comic series, released in 2010 with 6 issues to its name. All written by the show's producer Brian Ash and the movie director Scott Sanders. Now I'll be real, these stories are pretty weird, even for Black Dynamite. Especially the first being titled Slave Island, where my nigga beat modern day slave trade. After that, he leaves the black community to protect it, in a way. He stops the man after being forced to join the Illuminati, and it just goes all over the place after those 3 issues, y'all. As for where to place it in the timeline, I don't know. Maybe sometime after the movie, because there's no cream corn, bullhorn, or even honeybee, son. Honestly, these stories aren't that great, but I still think they got that Dynamite flair to it, you know what I mean? I recommend you pick it up if you're a fan of the property and comics in general. Because these stories, bro... I feel like some of them even inspired a few episodes to the series itself. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, try not to think so hard about the time of events in Black Dynamite, because although the film came out in 2009, the comics in 2010, and the series in 2012, the timeline of events make more sense if you think of the movie being the ending, and the comics almost like a prequel series to the animated show. It is what it is. Carl Jones? A name that better sound familiar to you niggas because this man was part of the Boondocks and the Last OG's creative team. He was one of the many writers, directors, and executive producers of Black Dynamite. Also, for all you anime buffs out there, if the show's art style looks slightly familiar to you, that's because Jones took inspiration from Takashi Koike's animated film, Redline. He wanted to use the black shadows in the making of this dark comedy where people actually die. The show might be morbid at times, but the story is full of heart. Black Dynamite is an action comedy western adult animated cartoon that parodies blaxploitation films, which aired on Adult Swim July 15th, 2012 to January 10th, 2015. The show follows Black Dynamite and his crew, Bullhorn, Creamcorn, and Honeybee, as they keep the black community protected from the fiendish Dr. Wu's ninjas and basically Nixon himself. And all while running the Whorphanage, a place for whores and orphans because a whole mama is better than no mama. You know, just classic 1970s LA. The series is based on the 2009 film of the same name, and logically would take place before the movie, due to the ending, which I am not going to spoil here, so if you know, you know. Seemingly episodic, the show keeps its canon somewhat consistent, such as the many times BD is telling the, and I paraphrase, honkies from the CIA to not be interrupting his seduction or jump roping, and now Kung Fu is on that list. It's the little nods to previous episodes in the movie that I appreciate most from this series. Black Dynamite, the show, not the character, has a simple structure for episodes. Celebrity or an event that occurred during the 1970s causes issues for BD or the community. They shuck, they jive, as well as have some over-the-top graphic violence and mouths dirtier than the 1970s NYC. Can you dig it? The pilot for Black Dynamite was released on Adult Swim Video August 8th, 2011. It later made its television debut on September 2nd, 2012. But season 1 didn't start airing until July 15th, 2012. Airing a pilot sometime later isn't uncommon, but I was surprised of how late it came into the season. It would have aired before the last 3 episodes of season 1, which ended on September 23rd, 2012. Due to the success of the first season, Black Dynamite made a comeback with its second season, which aired on October 18th, 2014 to January 10th, 2015. For now, Black Dynamite the series and the movie both have a new home on HBO Max. Trust me y'all, if you've never seen these titles before, I highly recommend them. They are a must-watch. But if you want the too long didn't watch version of it all, or just want to know what to expect from the series, then allow me to be your guide through Black Dynamite, Seasons 1 and 2. I don't consider the pilot to be episode 1 of the series, even though it's canon, but it was a good taste tester for what's expected of this show. And all in an 11-minute package too! Kinda odd considering the rest of the series' runtime is twice that, which can feel as though it's dragging in some parts of the episode, and material was just added in to fill in the runtime, such as the Elvis Presley episode with all the back and forth between Nixon and Presley. It felt like a much longer episode to me. But more time also means more space for the comedy to breathe. And with how fast and witty the humor is, you're gonna need that time to catch up with every little thing they say, especially during the brainstorming scenes. Ugh, I love it. Don't worry, I have a whole section dedicated to the comedy alone. It's that good. But to get back on track, the pilot gave audiences insight on Black Dynamite's badass skills with a bit of backstory and how it related to the Kermit the Frog ripoff antagonist of the episode, but unfortunately, there wasn't much to do with Bullhorn, Creamcorn, or Honeybee. However, even from the few lines that they had, it tells us at least the basics of their characters. Bullhorn speaks in rhyme, Creamcorn is a wannabe pimp, and Honeybee is sweet and supportive. So even though the pilot didn't show much of the crew's dynamic, it actually makes you want to know more about these characters and how they would regularly interact with one another. A brief pilot can only introduce so much. We don't even see other characters that have a common reoccurrence in the show. No Roscoe, no Basehead, hell, not even the whores or orphans are around. The focus remained with characters that are integral to the series and left me wanting more, like a good pilot should. Between the main series and the pilot, there are only a few minor differences, such as the opening theme, Bullhorn now reads the titles aloud, and the orphanage is twice the size it is now. The character models are slightly different, like Creamcorn's nose was much wider and Honeybee's face was smaller. These changes aren't that noticeable unless you're really looking for them, although there are times in the series where the characters are slightly off model, either for exaggerated expressions or being part of the background. And no biggie, it happens all the time in animation. Gotta stick to that budget, ya heard me? There's at least one episode each this season that focuses on BD's crew, such as Creamcorn's encounter with an alien Michael Jackson, Bullhorn starring in the first interracial adult film, and Honeybee getting abducted by a giant white horny ape. And no, I'm not even gonna try to provide context for any of that, because it would somehow make less sense. This cartoon be wildin', y'all. Ugh. We could see them as more than just supporting cast for Black Dynamite's adventures. They're like a family that bitches, complains, and underappreciates each other, but a family nonetheless. Oh wait, those are like real families. So as always, I'm right. Season 1 already gives you a feel of what to expect from this series. Abusing the hell out of that mature rating with in-your-face, hysterical commentary on events and public figures of the 1970s. There is no subtlety in this show whatsoever, but that doesn't make it any less clever than most. Sometimes you need to straight up tell a nigga that Richard Pryor wanted to be taken more seriously, or calm niggas' irrational but rational fear of vaccines. But if you're really curious about what this show has to offer, then I recommend starting with the episode
Apocalypse this! Or For the Pity of Fools, aka Flashbacks Are Forever.
It's also my favorite episode of season 1 because it shows what Black Dynamite, the show not the character, has to offer. The premise is that Creamcorn is helping Black Dynamite work through his PTSD, while the gang are in search of his long-lost friend in the jungles of Vietnam, who now goes by Mr. T and is cooking people in delicious barbecue sauce that Honeybee wants to get her hands on for a ribs contest, all while referencing James Bond. Oh my goodness, you can't write this shit! You can't! But they did! Somehow they did it! Ah, bless you, Carl Jones! This episode has some of the best humor and fight scenes, and if it wasn't for YouTube's restrictions, I'd gladly show it. Oh, and did I mention how educational this series can be? Like, I didn't know that David Cardigan usurped Bruce Lee's Kung Fu TV series. Ain't that like the white man? Stealing a person of color's idea and profiting off of it. My, how things have not changed today. And speaking of the white man, if there's one episode out of this whole season that could be considered controversial, it's the race war one. Okay, I'm not too fond of it, but I don't hate it either. It just makes me uncomfortable. But it's supposed to. The premise is that there's a literal race to determine who's the superior race, which it's a shame that I even have to state the most fucking obvious thing in the world to make sure nothing gets misconstrued, but there's no such thing as a superior race. Got it? We all suck. Anyway, they had a wacky racers vibe going on, only somehow more racist. And if Dick Dastardly could say nigger, I've already mentioned that this show is very overt, and that's exactly how they treat the racist jokes. Now, in this episode's defense, it's not like they were only targeting one specific group. Nah, cats. They went after every ethnicity they could. They were on some early South Park shit, you dig? The depiction of Chinese, Japanese, Inuits, and indigenous people were definitely bathed in some stereotypes, but they could have done way worse. And if it helps, they take crack shots at black and white people. There is a white racer who is just the worst, and we want to see him fail because hello. He was the antagonist and super duper racist. Grade A proud boy over here. Now, on the surface, this episode doesn't hold up very well, but with a more nuanced look at it, there's a lot that could be learned from it. Also, remember, this show takes place in the 70s. Segregation didn't end until 1964, so the depiction of racism for this time, even in the most extreme ways, makes absolute sense. And even if Black Dynamite had only ended with just one season, at least it came full circle with the finale where that frog Curtis's son, that bastard Curtis, seeks vengeance on Black Dynamite for killing his father, all while BD himself is reunited with his own shady daddy. Having a sequel to a pilot is something I've never seen before, and it made the ending feel that much more earned. For every vulgar joke and bloody fight scene, my heart was truly touched by these characters' love for their community and each other. Overall, season 1 was definitely smart, over the top, and had dumb fun that didn't take itself too seriously, but just enough that it's self-aware. And with season 2, it just got better! The team hit the ground running and held nothing back. New opening, improved action scenes, tighter pacing, and boldly tackling even more 70s social issues. Clits swinging, baby! Double cheeked up on a Sunday afternoon. It's packed. Also, I laughed way more from this season compared to the first, and found it easier to binge too. Which is great. I love it when writers choose to be more bold. And ain't nothing more bold than starting your second season with the black community enslaving white people and essentially reversing the roles of segregation and fights for equal rights. If Black Dynamite himself is against enslaving white people, then you know it's wrong, no matter how cathartic it might feel. Or how about Nixon sending Black Jaws to terrorize and eat the black community, all while Black Dynamite comes to terms with his fear of swimming and handles it like he would fucking a bitch. My favorite episode of this season, by the way. And that's just the tip of this iceberg. There's definitely a tone shift here, because season 2 feels more like it had a clear direction and almost a theme going on. It has the usual formula set up, and this time parodying or heavily referencing a movie or TV series. Like in
American Band Standoff, or The Godfather of Soul Train, or Get On Your Good Fella.
The rivalry between Dick Clark and Don Cornelius over who gets to control black music was on some Godfather shit. And the real life event is actually insane when you look more into it. Also, this being the only episode to ever focus on the orphans.
Different folks, same strokes, or The Hunger Pain Games.
Has the kids get adopted by Mr. Drummond. Yep. Seemingly to give them a life of luxury away from the orphanage, but it's later revealed to be a Hunger Games style tournament for the enjoyment of rich white people. These stories are wild, but it's not just all hilarious, hyperbolic fun. There's also episodes with not so surprisingly relevant commentary on the black community and how we are perceived. The black community's reaction to Roots and seeing how Africans were treated during slavery was the catalyst for them to enslave white people as a means of revenge. Although the reaction was turned to 11, I doubt any black person can say they thoroughly enjoy slave movies. Because as much as I think The Color Purple is a masterpiece, I can't even sit through the opening of that movie without bawling my eyes out. That shit hurts! I'd rather watch Hidden Figures. A time where segregation was closer to ending and it's more lighthearted by comparison because no one gets whipped. Yeah, it's historical and usually ends with the black slaves finding freedom or whatever, but black folks don't want to constantly see themselves in pain. We deserve the chance to be our most authentic selves. Anything so long as we move away from more slave movies, or as I like to call them, white guilt movies. Kinda like how the episode
Sweet Bill's Badass Sing-Along Song, or Bill Cosby Ain't Himself,
touched on the importance of black people being able to see themselves in films as heroes and leads, even if it was blaxploitation and largely stereotypes, because it was the 1970s and both black and white writers and directors were making these movies. I'd rather see black folks portrayed as hyperbolic stereotypes of themselves than watered down versions of who they are just to appeal to a white audience. Also in that episode, the Black Puma Party was trying to nickel and dime the production of the Blackety Blackest movie, mainly for their own self-gain, which is a complete contrast to the actual Black Panther Party. They wanted a percentage of the money from those blaxploitation films to go back into the black community. The Panthers had a love-hate relationship with these kind of films, especially Huey P. Newton's issues with Superfly being part of a conspiracy or something, I don't know. But they did require members to have watched Sweetback, which was considered a, quote, cultural reflection of the same types of political ideas that the Panthers championed. Bet they didn't teach it that in high school history. I sure as hell wasn't taught it, and I was an AP student. And again, in terms of a controversial episode this season, that would have to go to
Warriors Come Out! Or The Mean Queens of Halloween,
which I am also ready to defend. It's Halloween and Black Dynamite just wants to keep the orphans safe and to avoid what happened to him as a child. Toddler Beatty unknowingly met a crossdresser, and it confused him. So years later, that caused grown Beatty to be literally afraid of gay people. He was homophobic in the most literal sense of the word, because he just didn't understand gay people. And honestly, I can't even keep up with half the crap the queer community does. And I don't even know if queer is okay to say sometimes. Everything is so confusing, and I can't keep up at all, and I'm part of it. But BD's dilemma is that he was taught to never hit someone without balls. His mama's words, not mine. Even though in later episodes he did kick that Child Protective Service bitch through the door, but that's neither here nor there. So when him and the gang get falsely accused of murdering a gay leader, Black Dynamite's code of ethics are conflicted. A few distasteful transphobic jokes and creatively named queer subgroups later, Black Dynamite finally gets the education he's been seeking. And from J. Edgar Hoover of all people. Again, please remember this show takes place in the 1970s. The fact that they even acknowledge the existence of trans people is a miracle in and of itself. And of course, their use of outdated and unfavorable terms is simply a reflection of the times they're in. I expect to hear the hard R N-word in media set in the 1950s and 60s, so don't be surprised if something set in the 1970s uses the T-slur. Now, I'd like to think that we've grown as a society to use better words to describe trans people, but then again, that's wishful thinking. Besides, Black Dynamite comes to accept the gays in the end, and that's what's important. Instead of shooing away someone who is legit ignorant and wishes to understand, it wouldn't hurt to educate them. We can actually avoid having more ignorance in this world. Unlike the race war episode, this one isn't meant to make you uncomfortable, and more so to understand why Black Dynamite is uncomfortable around gay people and learning to overcome it. But unlike him, I am an advocate of true gender equality and will throw down with any man, woman, ebony, and beyond. These paws are rated E for everyone, baby. This season started bold and ended strong with an hour special parodying The Wiz, but even blacker, during the Watts riot. I swear, only Black Dynamite could pull this shit off. After a whole month of fighting and fucking every day, Black Dynamite tries to relax, but the whole black community is in a state of chaos it has never seen before with the cops. They even beat little orphan Rodney King! I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's kinda clever. But when the black community needed him most, BD gets knocked out and hallucinates about everyone being in The Wiz. Thus, musical hijinks ensue. We see all the characters reimagined in this parody, and on a journey to Oz Watts to see the great Magic Johnson. Even Black Dynamite sings a song at the end to get home, which is basically a recap of the series as a whole, and just shows how much he loves his community. I know I said that with how season 1 came full circle with the pilot, it would have been a fine ending to the show. But for this musical epic with such heart was far better, and a much more satisfying ending to the series. It's a shame Black Dynamite never got a third season, which probably would have been even better than season 2, but it went out with a bang nonetheless. And with the music being done by Tyler the Creator and Erykah Badu, go ahead, I ain't mad at you. So aside from barely noticeable frame drops or lack of in-betweens in the animation, I don't have much issue with this season. It's funnier, more dynamic, and as always, subtlety died on arrival. But what's a series without its titular characters? A vaudeville. So let's talk about the cast. This show has a great use of its reoccurring characters, and introduces either new or parodied versions of historical figures in the 1970s. You'll definitely see an array of characters, from the badass whores, tough orphans, stylish pimps, to the general members of the black community. And then there's Basehead. You get what you see with this one. But if I try to go over every Tom, Dick, and Harry in this series, we'd be here all day. So let's just focus on Black Dynamite and his crew. Y'all, I'm gonna be real. Black Dynamite can get it. Abandoned by his father, ex-CIA agent, Navy SEAL veteran, retired adult entertainer, now protector of the black community and businessman running a orphanage. He is Black Dynamite. He's kind of like an actual Black Superman. Like, this guy has Deus Ex Machina levels of strength, and it's hilarious. He could beat One Punch Man, give Goku a run for his money, and still cheat you while he's at it. Black Dynamite is that smooth, and this nigga gets some of the best lines.
Shut the up when grown men's is crying. Honeybee, what I tell you about interrupting my jump roping? All right, shut the up when grown folks are struggling. Damn it, who's interrupting my headlocking?
No, my dear cats, don't let that resting scowl face fool you. Underneath lies a misguided man trying his best to keep his people safe. BD might not be the nicest person, but he sure as hell is reliable and honors his word. Even though he does everything to the extreme, like seriously, he nearly sent those poor orphans to the hospital with that snowball fight. Yikes. He's a stubborn, stern, and caring authority figure that everyone looks up to. And again, he could get it!
Yeah, but somebody's gotta teach experience. Never mind, it sounded deep when I thought it.
Why did you ask me to talk about cream corn again?
Well, Dove, it's actually quite simple. It's because you're just like him. You're smart, stylish, funny.
Aw. Yeah, I guess I'm, pretty cool, you know what I'm saying?
And a punk-ass wannabe pimp.
Ah, that sounds about right. Fine, I'll do it. But you owe me.
Yeah, I'll peg you later. Just do your part so I can do mine.
Please stay away from my butthole.
Ah, cream corn. Ain't this about a bitch? Man, how come I'm not the one talking about honeybee? I know about MILFs. Y'all niggas know who Diamond Jackson is? You do? Hell yeah, you do. Cream corn is one of those characters that makes me go, oh, hey, cool, it's Tommy Davidson. His character personality is literally written to be a bitch, which he is in the series and in the live action movie.
Hey Ortiz, this is the part when you put the cream corn clip of the I'm running bang. Fucking you know the clip I'm talking about. And if you add this clip of me talking about the clip into the video, I'm gonna be very sad.
A very notable episode that everybody remembers cream corn being involved in is the Jackson 5 episode, where Michael Jackson literally just abuses him throughout the entire episode. Very hilarious stuff. He literally slaps the shit out of him and does it again. It's oh my god. He really doesn't got much going for him instead of being the comedy relief and a person that's constantly not on Black Dynamite's side amongst choices being made. Like he kind of be acting like an antagonist, but then you realize how much of a bitch he is, so it kind of don't even matter.
Girl! I mean, bitch! Well, I didn't mean to call you bitch, but could you get my money, please?
Okay, so I gotta say something about Bullhorn. I think what I have to say will leave people torn. He's a man who gets all the bitches, but he's careful and makes sure they don't get on his riches. He takes no crap from nobody, and he doesn't like, okay, I can't rhyme this whole damn thing. Bullhorn is definitely a unique type of character. He's pretty smooth in his demeanor, so much so that he just speaks in rhyme the whole time. Okay, that was the last one. He acts as a fairly supportive friend to Black Dynamite and everyone. He can keep a cool head on him, which just adds to his coolness factor. Him and Black Dynamite manage to not butt heads too often because he can keep his wits about him for the most part. He can get persuaded into dumb shit whenever pussy's involved, but at least he's a fairly competent teammate to Black Dynamite and just a true ladies' man.
Take these baby back ribs back!
Sorry I have you pulling double duty, Kang.
Girl, please, I'm happy to help. Now, who am I talking about again?
Well, the only one left is Honeybee, but if you don't want her, I could.
Hold up, Honeybee? The queen bee? Homegirl, black queen bee? Baby girl with the thick booty and all that, baby girl, queen honeybee? Ah!
Yeah, he's got this.
With all due respect to D-Dub, I'ma be that nigga today. Mothers and motherly figures are my department. In more ways than one. Ha ha ha. But anyways, Honeybee is part of Black Dynamite's crew, played by Kim Whitley in both the movie and animated series, being the only tribute to female blaxploitation movies, such as Foxy Brown, Coffee, and Cleopatra Jones. Honeybee, however, has her own character. She's sassy, sweet, can whoop a lot of ass, and can be a super freak. Respectfully. She's also the heart of the group, not only looking out for Black Dynamite and the boys, but also taking care of all the whores and orphans at the orphanage. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, baby girl puts in more work keeping that place together more than anyone. She even had a couple of breakdowns between seasons. She's constantly making fun of cream corn, putting this nigga in his place anytime he talking about he a pimp. Like, nigga, if you don't sit your wannabe superfly ass down somewhere. But Bullhorn and Honeybee don't really have that much screen time together like that for them to really have any chemistry, but for the most part, they cool with each other. But Black Dynamite and Honeybee's relationship is a little strange to me. See, in the pilot, she was all over that nigga, calling him sexy, always having her hand on his chest whenever she's next to him. But in the main series, it's more of a mutual relationship, which I personally like, but there are times where they imply they have something deeper. But they quickly dropped that by season 2, especially in the episode How Honeybee Got Her Groove Back, where the homegirl went on vacation with the other whores to Jamaica, and homegirl laid with Bob Marley. This show's wild, y'all. In conclusion, Honeybee is a fine, kick-ass lady and a gorgeous black queen, y'all.
Woo! I can't wait to see how many suckers I can turn down at this block party.
So I said to the Chinaman, I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Of course, when you explain a joke, it's not as funny. But when you try to make sense of it, it's hilarious. Which is the best way I can explain the humor of Black Dynamite. A bunch of quick-witted, sharp, vulgar, nonsensical lines and visual gags that always get a laugh out of me. Especially in season 2, where I had a lot of stop and think about it moments when watching. Unlike most adult shows where saying fuck is the supposed punchline, Black Dynamite will take you on a verbal roller coaster of 70s slang wrapped around that vulgarity of the conversation. Also, the line delivery for this show is, chef's kiss. I am still blown away on how the actors could translate their on-camera performances to animation just simply through their voices. Then again, any actor that knows and uses their body to the fullest extent for on-camera performances should have little to no issue when it comes to doing voice work. Like for example, Jack Black and Jim Carrey, very, and I mean very, expressive actors who can transfer their physical energy into their voice work. Black Dynamite also has recurring jokes such as BD telling people to shut the fuck up when grown folks are blank, or don't be interrupting my blank. It's a very basic template, but used in so many different ways. It's like Black Mad Libs. Black Libs.
Shut the up and let a grown man find his grappling hook. Black Dynamite's gonna need you to shut the up when grown folks is talking, okay? So everybody, will you please shut the up when grown folks is talking? Yeah.
But my absolute favorite is during the brainstorming scenes. These are a dime a dozen jokes, because it's BD and his crew trying to figure out a case, breaks down a laundry list of unrelated topics, and that somehow reveals who the criminals are. It's like going, ah yes, marshmallows are delicious, to, it was the one-armed man that poisoned the water supply. Like, fucking how did you figure that out, bruh? We were just eating some s'mores. In order to structure a scene like that, let alone a joke, you'd have to work backwards in writing it and ensuring that every little detail is on point. Because during these scenes, Cream Corn be dropping some scientific knowledge on us. Oh my goodness, I love the writing so much! But with a show this unique and creative, why was it cancelled? Well, I could simply look at the ratings for season 1, which pulled in about 1.5 million views per episode, while season 2 was barely able to crack 1 million views an episode. Like, excuse me, season 2 is objectively better than the first season, so you would think it would have just as, if not more views. Or was there something going on behind the scenes? Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't find anything aside from a tweet from Carl Jones on February 6, 2015, saying that Black Dynamite won't be returning for season 3, thanking everyone for their support. Maybe it was season 2 airing at a poor time slot that killed the views. Maybe the budget became too demanding. Or it could have boiled down to creative differences, who knows? But I'm glad Jones and his team got to tell the stories they wanted and explored new creative avenues with this show.
It could be argued that the archetype Black Dynamite focuses on is the origin of the super powerful, invincible, black male stereotype, which has repeatedly come up in the recent cases of police shooting black males.
What's happening in this country with Garner and Ferguson has nothing to do with seeing black people as superheroes. It has a lot to do with not having empathy for black men. The reason why we don't have empathy is social engineering and negative media propaganda. The cop in Ferguson said that he saw this kid as a, quote, demon. So now you can't be big and black. In the court system, you can use fear as a reason for you to kill somebody. Just because you feared him, regardless of what you contributed to that fear, you have every reason to pull out your gun and shoot him. It's important to me that Black Dynamite is seen as a human being, but being an alpha male doesn't equate to not being a human.
This series isn't about some hyper-masculine black superhero that can easily solve everyone's problems with just his fists. Well, most of the time it's not. Black Dynamite is about the love one has for their community and how far they're willing to go to see it thrive. By using events of the past, it holds up a mirror to what we thought has changed and what still remains. How has the Black community of the 1970s differed to the one of today? Are we showing care for our brothers, sisters, and siblings in a way that they need? Or are we condemning them for not living up to our expectations of what it means to be Black? I know there's a lot of issues that the Black community has to deal with on the outside, but there's also a ton of internal problems that need addressing, which could be a video all of its own. But it's series like Black Dynamite and The Boondocks, which, yes, lets us laugh at ourselves, but is also critiquing and raising questions about the standards of our culture that are harmful to our people. Unhealthy foods, no snitching culture, homophobia, and so on and so forth. So while I'm happy to have a discussion of the culture regarding The Boondocks' modern takes, let's not forget that there's a lot to learn from our past through Black Dynamite. Can you dig it?
I think the type of stories we do are very similar to what happened with hip hop. We're looking at what's going on in our surroundings and our communities, and we're contextualizing it in such a way that it makes it palatable for everyone. Even who may not share that experience, I think a lot of it has to do with the attitude and energy behind it and the honesty. It's transcending racial barriers and socioeconomic dispositions as well, which is a cool thing. All of our fans aren't Black. I think a large majority of our fans are other nationalities. We don't just set out to just speak to Black people, but we try to tell stories that are personal to us and that we are passionate about, and be honest about who we are. If people like it, then so be it.